Hello and welcome to 3 Minute Gaming. I'm Nathan, and today I'm going to tell you if this game's worth their time and bandwidth.
Today's game is the Castlevania Dominus collection. So yeah, Konami stealth dropped a collection of their DS Metroidvania games and some extras. Is this their best collection yet? Let's find out. Castlevania Dominus collection contains a whopping 5 games, 3 from the DS and 1 brand new. So let's cover each individually. Dawn of Sorrow is the sequel to Aria of Sorrow. Mechanically, the stuff from here is identical. Soma can kill enemies and absorb their souls, giving him new magic moves and passives. Dawn takes this mechanic and expands on it, where souls can now be used to upgrade gear, and getting dupes powers that soul up. But overall, this game is just as good, if not better, than Aria of Sorrow. In Portrait of Ruin, you play as not one, but 2 characters, Jonathan and Charlotte, with John being a traditional Belmont and Charlotte being a mage. Each has their own set of equips and sub-abilities, and you can swap between them or even summon them to aid you in battle at any time at the cost of MP. The game also leans heavily into it with tons of puzzles requiring the 2 of you work together. This is in addition to its other big change, which is while you have the castle itself to explore, portraits warp you to smaller bite-sized maps around the world, which allow for a ton of visual variety. It's very unique and quite fun. Order of Ecclesia is the least well-known of the 3, as it sold poorly on release, which is a shame. It deviates the most from that GBA Metroidvania formula, with all weapons and magics now called glyphs, so everything, including attacking, takes MP. You can equip 3 glyphs at a time across 3 swappable sets, giving you a ton of build flexibility. The game also leans into Portrait's concept of smaller, separated zones with an actual world map where you pop into different levels that interconnect, as well as having a home base to buy stuff and upgrade. Ecclesia is also much more difficult than the other DS games, putting up a considerable challenge, especially with its bosses, and also has a much darker aesthetic. Don't overlook this one. Haunted Castle is a port of the arcade predecessor to Castlevania, and this also appeared in the Konami Arcade Anniversary Collection, so I don't know why it's here. It's an interesting piece of history, but it's absolutely abysmal to play, and I hate it. There's also a new game, Haunted Castle Revisited, which takes the concept of Haunted Castle and modernizes it, and is actually kind of great. It's very much a classic linear Castlevania game with just Haunted Castle skin, and overall was a surprise treat. All the emulation here is very good, and with the DS games, they went above and beyond. Both variations of the top screen, status, and map are visible at all times, and you can hold R2 and use the right stick to simulate touching the screen. But in addition, they added things like turning the glyph writing in Dawn to be usable with just face buttons. I was really worried how the touch stuff would translate, and they completely nailed it. And that's really the Castlevania Dominus collection. A bunch of DS games I've wanted for years, dropped unceremoniously onto digital storefronts, and filled to the brim with Metroidvania goodness. So what did I like about the Castlevania Dominus collection? Well, all of these games, except Haunted Castle, are absolutely fantastic, and each try to do unique things within their classic Metroidvania framework, so they all play and feel distinct from each other. Additionally, as mentioned, the emulation is phenomenal, and implements a ton of smart ideas to help translate previous touch-only stuff to a modern control pad. And lastly, Haunted Castle Revisited was a treat I did not expect whatsoever. It's technically the first new Castlevania game in who knows how long, and was a fun little dive back into the classic formula. When it comes to the bad, while they did a good job attempting to fix touchscreen stuff, there are still a few parts where I had to use it, and it was not ideal, specifically breaking ice in Dawn of Sorrow. And while I'm glad you can use the touchpad on the PS5, that thing is way too small and imprecise to do the stylus-esque movements these games require. Additionally, I've been waiting years to complain about this, and now I can. The change in art for Dawn of Sorrow and Portrait of Ruin, from gorgeous gothic horror to 4 kids how to draw anime characters, is an absolute disgrace to the series and a blight on otherwise fantastic games. And lastly, the overlay and UI actually has some noticeable lag, and this is paired with equally noticeable input lag across all the games. It wasn't bad enough to tilt me or anything, but I did miss a few precise jump timings, which was unfortunate. As you know, I rate games here on a 3-point scale: must play, maybe consider, and don't bother, and this collection absolutely lived up to and shattered my expectations. They play great, sound great, and aren't $100 each like the DS carts are, so if you even remotely enjoy the Metroidvania genre, you need to get these as soon as possible. And that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. What do you think of the Castlevania Dominus collection? Please let me know what you think in the comments, but regardless, go out there and make sure you give this collection a look.